Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood. Tim is a retirement and income specialist, certified financial fiduciary, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim primarily serves Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and Southwest Virginia, but he's sought after nationally for his expertise in helping people secure their retirements. Mr. Wood is a licensed life insurance professional in multiple states and specializes in working with people who are near retirement and those who have already retired with wealth management, income planning, and asset protection strategies using life, health, long-term care, and annuity insurance products. And now, here to talk with you about securing your retirement, your host, Tim Wood.
Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'm Tim Wood, an asset and retirement protection and guaranteed income specialist. One of the most important questions someone can answer once you're getting into retirement is, how should I take those withdrawals? How should I take the money that I have accumulated through the accumulation phase of my life, my whole life, and grown, my pot of money to X dollars? How should I use those X dollars and take that money from that so I'm doing it as wisely as possible and doing it, in the smartest way possible? We're going to discuss that. There's three major approaches, and we're going to discuss all three of them real quick. First, if you don't already have a copy of my book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, it talks about all three of these approaches and how they interact with each other. I'm going to talk about that really quick in this segment, but it goes into more detail. Get your free copy right now, SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Or just give us a call anytime, 833-413-SAFE, S-A-F-E, that's 7233. All right, the three major approaches to doing withdrawals in retirement. Number one, the structured, systematic withdrawal approach, okay? Now, this is the one that most people think of when they think of like the 4% rule. Or, I'm just going to start taking withdrawals from my accounts, and it's what I call IFCOM. It's great as long as the market doesn't have a major event, or you need to take a big withdrawal out at the same time the market's down, because that can get you into the death spiral like what happened to my father. So I'm not a really huge fan of the structured systematic withdrawal approach. Plus, back in the 80s, it was postulated that you could do with 4%. Well, there's actually a study by Dr. Wade Pfau, and you can get that study right on my website, SafeMoneyRetirement.com, that kind of refutes that, looking at, and he uses numbers. He's not just saying, hey, I don't think so. That says you really might want to be closer to 2.5 or 3, or maybe even a little less, depending on your situation, to really give you a really close to 100% chance of making it. Now, again, it's still not 100%. And that's why I'm not, number one, that's why I'm not a huge fan of that approach. But number two, okay, so we're talking 2.5 to 3. Even if we were at 4% withdrawal, you can do that, and that's an IFCOM. It may last. Or you could put it into a guaranteed lifetime income annuity, and those pay out literally starting almost day one at 5.5 or 6% plus per year. Now, rates change all the time. I'm talking about what they are right now, but you're getting more of a payout, and you're getting that guaranteed for as long as you're breathing. That's why I'm not a huge fan of that first one. So on to the second one, the time segmentation approach. Now, I do use this. So this is actually, it's also, some people call it the bucket approach. I've got the bucket approach as something a little different in my book, but same idea, that basically what it is we look at your retirement in 3 sections. So for example, let's look at the first 10 years of retirement. If you were to retire at 65 to 75. All right, a lot of people call that the go-go years, so we're going to need extra money there because you're going to be doing the cruises and the vacations and the helping the kids and all that stuff, grandkids in college, all that stuff. So we plan for more there. Well, then the next 10 years, 75, 85, are what we call the slow-go years. You can still do all that stuff, you just don't want to anymore. So we can, have your income go down a little bit, but we've also got to make sure that we have planned for inflation. because inflation, while it does now seem like it's starting to ease a little bit, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. So we need to plan for that. And then have a third bucket that's actually 85 plus. That would be the no-go years. Now, hopefully you're still going. I'm just generalizing, but and we plan for that, and that is going to be more, long-term care expenses and things like that. And we can set it up, and I do that. That is part of what I do. Now, the third major approach is, there's several different names for it. I call it flooring. Some call it safety first. Some call it essential versus discretionary. So essentially what this one is, this is making sure you have a floor. And what that means is you've got enough income to cover your basic expenses every single month, rest of your life. And we can build in things, like I said, with the time segmentation approach that actually allows the income to grow over time to keep up with inflation and cost of living and all that kind of stuff. So I do actually a mixture of the flooring approach and the time segmentation approach when I'm doing an income plan for a client of Safe Money Retirement. We look at what are you going to need immediately, and we make sure we get you that in guaranteed lifetime income. Not, boy, I sure hope nothing happens and we'll have enough, if come. So let's make sure we get you guaranteed income. That's what you need right away. So that's the flooring approach. But I go a step further because I don't want to just do that, because that floor is going to change, right? I mean, you will never get less than that, but how much you need is going to change because inflation, because cost of living, because someone's going to need something. So let's make sure we build in the time segmentation on top of the flooring and make sure that you've got the ability for that income to grow in the future whenever that need is, whether it's 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So that's what I do. So real quick recap, the three major approaches: the structured systematic withdrawal approach. Again, I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, when I say I'm not a huge fan of that, I'm just talking right now, I'm also just talking about income. So that withdrawal approach doesn't have anything to do with growth plans. We're just talking about income. So like I said, that's why I'm not a big fan of just taking structured withdrawals out, because it's if come. Yes, it might last based on historicals, but historicals don't mean that's what's going to happen the next 20 or 30 years, because that's what's happened the last. We hope it does for all of our sakes, but that doesn't mean it's going to. So that's why I like to have guaranteed income. And I use a version, my own version of the last two, which is the flooring approach and the time segmentation approach. So flooring, let's make sure we get your income, how much it needs to be when you retire. That's your floor. But then like I said, we also need to have a few extras that can pop on there that can continue to grow until you need them in the future to overcome the inflation, to overcome the extra added expenses, maybe of long-term care. And also in some of those, especially the longer term ones, we look at possibly even having some long-term care benefits tied into them. Now, I'm not talking about a long-term care policy. That's a whole other discussion. I'm talking about a benefit tied into that guaranteed lifetime income plan that can potentially make that plan double in certain situations if you're in a long-term care situation. That's something that we can discuss individually. What you need to do is you just need to figure out between those three approaches, which sounds the best for you. Would you rather, have the opportunity for more growth and we'll just take money from it and hope? Or would you rather know that you've got a floor and know that you've got more growing that you can turn on in the future to make sure your retirement is as safe as possible? This is Tim Wood, your host of the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'll be right back after this informative message.
Did you know that your Social Security could be much higher depending on which option you choose for claiming your benefit? Social Security income is more complex than some think. When should you take it? Should you only take your spouse's benefit while you continue to work? Deciding how to receive your Social Security benefits can make your head spin. Don't decide about your retirement without the facts. Call us now and ask for your complimentary Social Security guide at 833-413-SAFE. That's 833-413-7233. Your Social Security is too important to leave to chance. Call us now at 833-413-SAFE. That's 833-413-7233. You're listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood.
Welcome back to the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'm Tim Wood, a Safe Money Retirement Specialist. For many of my longtime listeners, none of this information is going to be new, but I am still getting feedback that my clients and retirees from all over the country are still getting scammed and still falling for it. So I want to just real quick talk about some of the biggest scams that are out there. I want to touch on that again because I want to make sure no one within the sound of my voice has this happen to you. So the three biggies out there right now, number one, IRS impersonators. There are more than 2.4 million people that fell victim to fake IRS demands for money, and that happens every single year. That's just an average. Folks, that's almost 1% of the adult population are falling victim to IRS impersonators. So basically, these scammers claim the individual, whoever it is, you or whoever, owes them money and that they could lose their home or be sent to jail or they could levy their bank account or whatever if it's not paid immediately. And unfortunately, a lot of people are falling for this scam. So number one, if someone from the IRS calls you and says you owe them money, I want to know their badge number. I want to know a phone number. If you work for the IRS, I should be able to call you right back, correct? If I can't, then what's the problem? Or I would just hang up and call the IRS immediately, saving the number that had just called you and as much information as you can so they can start to prosecute these people. So that's number one. Don't just take someone that calls and says they're from the IRS at face value. Let's make sure if someone says you owe the IRS money, do you need to take it seriously? Well, yeah, but let's make sure they really are from the IRS. All right. Number two, sweepstakes scams. These happen all the time. Basically, they congratulate the individual on winning some sweepstakes or some money from somewhere, but in order to receive the money, all you have to do is pay taxes and fees. Well, guess what? You pay those quote-unquote taxes and fees, and there's no money on the back end. You just got scammed out of that tax and fee money. So again, if someone calls you and says they're from wherever and you want a sweepstakes, okay, that's fantastic. Let me get a phone number so I can call you back or so I can call the company to confirm this is real. And if it is, fantastic, because there really are sweepstakes out there. I mean, we all know that. But you don't want to become a victim. And especially if you get someone that calls you for a sweepstakes that says, congratulations, you won, but you have to pay this in order to get the prize. That should be a huge red flag right there. So don't fall for that one either. Before I go into the third one real quick, if you do not already have a copy of my book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, please grab your copy right now. You can get one at safemoneyretirement.com or call us at 833-413-SAFE. All right. The third biggest scam that's out there right now is what's called a grandparent scam. So essentially what happens is people do a little bit of research on a grandparent's family, and they essentially impersonate the victim's grandchild and claim they're in some sort of legal trouble, or they're in jail and need some money, or they made some sort of something and they need some money, grandpa need it right now. Well, grandpa and grandma, unfortunately, a lot of times fall victim to that and think that it's their grandchild, and he says, please don't tell mom and dad, which would of course be their kids, and they go along with it. Anyway, all that being said, be careful of that. Make sure it really is your grandchild. If they're not calling from a number that you recognize, say, hold on a second, I'll call you right back, hang up, and call that grandchild on the number that you know of. And if it was them, fine. Okay, you were using a friend's phone or whatever. But if it wasn't, you just saved yourself from that scam. So don't fall prey to any of these things. Make sure you double check everything before you send anybody a penny. Well, I'm about out of time, and I would like to thank you for listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show. If you're serious about your financial future, give me a call, and together we'll get your retirement savings on the fast track to accumulate while reducing exposure to market loss. Thanks for listening, and until next time at the same time, I'm Tim Wood reminding you to stay safe so you can step into a secure future.
You've been listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood. Find out how to contractually guarantee that your hard-earned money is safe from market losses and that you have an income you can't outlive so you can have the retirement that you deserve. Call Tim Wood now for your complimentary Safe Money Retirement Book and Information Kit at 833-413-SAFE. That's 833-413-7233. Or request your copy of Tim's book online at safemoneyretirement.com. The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Surrender charges apply to base contracts. Optional lifetime income benefit riders are used to calculate lifetime payments only and are not available for cash surrender or in a death benefit unless specified in the annuity contract. Fees may apply. Guarantees are based on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the insurance company. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified and licensed professional. Obviously, by calling us now, you are just taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. It's important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Rates and returns mentioned on this program are subject to change without notice.